We just went to the movies because we got a babysitter.
Yeah.
Yay.
And we got to go see what?
Trap.
The M. Night Shyamalan movie. And how do you feel about M. Night Shyamalan films?
I really just remember The Visit and Old, and they always leave me with an eerie feeling, but I do enjoy them.
You just never really know what quality you're going to get from M. Night Shyamalan. I'm a big fan,
Yeah.
but he's very inconsistent. And sometimes it seems like when he like hits one thing out of the park, all this other stuff is like, what were you doing with that? And he does that a little bit in this movie.
Yeah.
But I was pretty excited for Trap. If not just an M. Night Shyamalan thriller, but there's a really cool concept in here that...
I think I saw the trailer and then I sent it to you, or I said, this looks really good. We should see it.
Trap does an interesting thing where it gives away its like core concept in the trailer. So it was really unique idea, and I had no idea like what direction it could go in. Are there going to be more twists, more turns? But honestly, I'm happy to say that I really enjoyed Trap.
Yeah, I did as well.
There are definitely a lot of issues, which we'll get into in a little bit here. There's some, like, at this point, becoming signature M. Night Shyamalan fluff-ups, I want to say. Or, like, definitely some things he seems to continually do that kind of bother me. But
it was good.
It was good.
Yeah.
Like, it works as a movie, which a lot of films, I think, forget to do.
It's been your complaint, yeah.
That's the biggest thing is, like, there could be a ton of issues, or it could even be fundamentally perfect. But if it fails as just, like, a movie telling a story and taking you on this journey, then, which I kind of felt like Longlegs, not to get into that, but, like, that, it has pieces, but it fails as, like, a movie. And so films can have issues, but this one...
It felt like we watched a movie.
Yeah. It's hard to, like, put that into words, but
sometimes we come out and it's like, it didn't feel like we watched a complete story.
And we've been getting that a lot in theaters this year. At least I feel that I've been getting that a lot.
Yeah.
So it was refreshing to come out and be like, yeah, I enjoyed that. Lots of issues, but it was a good movie overall.
And also to not think, like, when is the next scene coming, or the action, or how long have we been here?
Yeah.
Some movies drag. It really didn't. It drag. I mean, I know you had a complaint that it dragged a little bit.
Like a little bit, but that's like the thing is, there were a lot of... There's a lot of moments in more recent movies where you're kind of like, okay, where is this going? Where's the next scene?
Yeah.
When is it going to be over? How long is this?
But I was into the story, and I was enjoying myself.
Pretty good pace.
So we've kind of already gotten into some of the positives, but we wanted to mention a few more.
Before we get into more of our positives, we are not going to be talking about spoilers yet, so we'll get into those in a little bit. But at the moment, kicking things off, the acting in Trap was really good. By our lead, Josh Hartnett, specifically.
He was amazing. And I do like him in a lot of other movies. But you were saying it's nice to see him in more current roles?
Yes.
He's in older movies?
It's nice to see him back. Yeah. I am a big Josh Hartnett fan.
Yeah, I didn't know his name until
Faculty, 30 Days of Night, 40 Days and 40 Nights. There's a lot of good Josh Hartnett performances. And so as soon as I saw him in the trailer...
This was another one.
I was very excited. He absolutely carries this film. A lot of the rest of the actors are kind of like side characters intentionally, because you're kind of like in his head a little bit. I think for the most of the movie, his daughter was really good.
Yeah.
I thought she was really good. I mean, she did exactly what she needed to do.
Yeah. There were a few scenes I was like, oh, but he was really good.
There was some corny stuff in the beginning between the two, definitely, which we'll get into. But and then M. Night Shyamalan's daughter is in this. I can't remember her name, but she is like the pop star. Yeah. That they go
She should be a real pop. If that's her voice, she should be a real pop star.
So I didn't look it up on IMDb before this, but from what I remember in the credits, it said original music by
it did.
Her and M. Night Shyamalan, didn't it?
Yeah. Or someone else.
Else.
Yeah, she was amazing.
Really good. So like the acting, her performance felt like you would be at a concert.
A real concert, yeah.
And I know M. Night Shyamalan specifically came out and said they put a lot of effort into like actually piecing out like the timing of a full concert, so it would feel authentic.
It did. Yeah, the songs and the dancing and the encore.
And even like the feature when like came out.
There were 2 features, I think.
There were 2 features, but like that really felt authentic.
Felt like she was bringing someone on stage.
Yeah, like the thing rose up and everything. And then the music that they wrote in this was really good.
It was. I was like, I should look up the songs.
One of the songs is in the trailer.
Yeah.
So I don't know a lot about like if they used like samples or anything like that, or if it's all original music. I thought it was all original music, but it's really good.
Yeah.
And it genuinely feels like kind of cohesive also. And there's a lot of songs. It's not like they wrote like one song that they just keep playing over and over again.
Like, I mean, we heard clips of like probably 6 or 7
at least
songs.
6 or 7 songs.
And there's quite a few throughout the movie.
And they have like similar styles and vibes where you could tell they clearly were like sampling a certain genre.
Yeah, it felt like it was from the same artist.
But it did feel authentic. Yeah. And it was catchy.
It's good.
And the one song that she plays in the movie that was in the trailer also has that really like eerie tone to it. I wish I could remember the lyrics now. But it works really well.
Yeah.
In the movie and in the trailer.
I caught myself kind of like bopping my head along to the concert. And then I was like, wait, I'm not there. I'm not at the concert.
It does genuinely feel, which this is kind of gets in the negatives a little bit, but it's also like it genuinely feels like you're at a concert for a good chunk of this movie, which I think is hard to do.
Yeah, and then not lose your audience and have it be boring.
Going off of that, the music in the film in terms of the score also I thought was excellent. This one, it's definitely stands out, very noticeable.
Yeah.
But it works perfectly for the moments where like Josh Hartnett's character things are either being revealed or happening, or you're kind of like he's trying to figure things out. The music was really good.
Mixed, like they matched and the facial expressions with the music, and I thought that was really good. Like it was like a close up on his face and the music, and it was really impactful. And
like there's even moments where like Josh Hartnett is like his mouth is trembling a little bit, and seeing the close up,
and his
like
eye was like I don't know. You could just read his eyes. That was
he's
shot was
so
really
good in this movie.
Yeah,
but the music really worked with genuinely like what was going on on his facial expressions. Which was really unique and cool. Yeah. And they had those really cool shots of like half of his eye. Yeah. Which I thought there was going to be some payoff for that, but regardless, it was a cool shot. I do think that Trap was shot pretty well. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely shot different. Like on paper, I don't think it's very good in like terms of fundamentally shot, if that makes sense. Because there's shots where like his head's cut off. Yeah. Like 90% of it's like the big Jumbotron screen. Yeah. And they're like small over here. There's some really weird shots. Yeah. But for the movie,
it worked.
Because it makes it feel like, oh, this is maybe a camera that's set up at a concert. And these are just 2 concert goers and you can see the Jumbotron. Yeah. Or
I didn't think about I didn't notice. Usually that's like you've taught me that's like the first thing I notice is like, oh, he's going to say this isn't shot well, or oh, he's going to really like this. And I really feel like I didn't notice that as much in this movie, which was maybe because it was different and it was just, it fit really well with the tone of the movie.
So like, if you were to take screenshots of this film, with it, obviously some good shots in there, but on a paper, like they don't look cinematically good. Yeah. But they function to tell the story, which is, I think, a thing that actually we're diving into that we're missing a lot in films these days. Everyone's trying to find the best way to shoot something instead of the most efficient way to tell the story. And I think Trap really relies on like, okay, this isn't the best shot, but this is the best way to get, especially when you're moving around like a concert. Yeah. And there's all these people out there.
Well, yeah, and then I'm assuming like the stadium looked kind of circular, so then people are like walking around. Yeah, like walking a circle, kind
of like. Yeah. So that a lot of the camera would like go up to someone and then would just move and like move around. And actually, Josh Hartnett loses focus on him in one scene. And I mean, I assume it's intentional, but it almost looks accidental. Yeah, yeah. But it was kind of like he was removing himself from the scene, so I wasn't sure if it was like supposed to be saying like he's removing himself from the scene. He's also losing focus or something like that.
That's kind of what I thought, yeah.
Yeah, there's very interesting shots, but they work really, really well.
Yeah.
The overall story and the writing in this for like what happens with Josh Hartnett's character and how he gets out of the situation or how he's trying to figure things out, it's not as impactful as I would like it to be.
Yeah.
Which we'll get into. But I do think they did some clever things for how he would get a key card.
Yeah.
Or how he would find his way out of a scene.
Yeah. And I think they did a good job. Like, I felt kind of nervous for him a few times.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, he needs to get out. Like, how is he going to do it? And then he would do something else and find something else. And I think
another thing that Trap does really well, which is kind of like a minor spoiler, even though it's in the trailer, is he is technically like our bad guy, but we are rooting for him.
Yeah.
Like most of the movie, we're really kind of rooting for him.
I didn't realize that. Yeah.
But you're also kind of rooting for like his daughter too.
Yeah.
And so you don't want him to get caught, but then you also are kind of like, well, he is kind of a monster. Also, they wrote that line fairly well. I mean, the detective agent in here, like I could care less about her.
Yeah.
So they didn't make it like, oh, we want her to catch him either.
Yeah.
It just was more like, okay, he's a bad guy, but I love him, his character, and I want him to get out.
He was a likable character.
Very likable.
Yeah.
That scene on the roof with the police, really good scene. I love that we stole the apron, and it's like very reminiscent of a movie. I feel like he was channeling something, but I can't remember what movie it is. I was trying to remember.
Interesting.
But I loved like when they talked to him, they went into that like, oh, I just was so traumatized. I needed a breath of fresh air. He went into this like sad boy character.
I think that was the moment where I was like, oh, he really does have it in him to be this person that they talked about, but I didn't really see it until that moment. And then I was like, oh, he can manipulate really well.
Yeah, that's true. You didn't really see it till you got to that point.
Yeah.
And then it's just like you could see him turn on a dime.
Yeah.
Come up with a cover story.
I think that was really like a pivotal turning point in the movie. And then he like just kept going from there.
The setting of Trap, they did a really good job making it feel like a concert.
Yeah.
And there's so many cops.
Yeah. SWAT.
And so many people.
Crowds.
And it's sometimes in the movies where they show that and they're like, oh, there's cops surrounding it. You see like 3 cops and you're kind of like, okay. This one felt like genuinely every exit was covered.
Yeah. You felt kind of like, you're like, oh, he really is trapped. Like there was no way to get past them.
But it also felt like a concert, which is really tricky to do. And you mentioned blocking a second ago.
Just so many actors and actresses.
So many people to
block. And I mean, we've been to a lot of concerts and they're, with a lot of different people, and just to have that's impressive.
It is impressive. And I think of like A Quiet Place, day one, and I think about the blocking in that film, and I think it was one of the weak points. It felt like you have a couple characters. Yeah. Everyone else is just kind of like over here.
Yeah.
And this one, it felt like he was amongst the crowd.
Yes.
It didn't feel like he was just standing out, like there's your main character, and everyone else is just kind of doing stuff.
Yeah. And I didn't notice any of the background actors either, so they weren't doing anything. Sometimes, in movies, they'll look kind of silly. Like they're just like, I'm talking to my friend and drinking my coffee, and they don't look very good. But I didn't notice any of them.
And that takes skill with the blocking to really make it feel authentic.
Yeah, it felt really authentic.
And I think that's just something to really praise him for, whether people are really liking this movie or not. I mean, he did a really good job putting a lot of effort into making it feel authentically like a concert.
Yeah. I feel like I'm probably going to accidentally mention some spoilers while we're talking about the negatives. So here is your warning.
Yeah. So let's get into some negatives about Trap. And kicking things off, there are some, as I kind of mentioned before, M. Night Shyamalan-esque things in here. One, like his signature things I'm noticing recently are unique character dialogue that doesn't make sense, character traits that don't feel like humans, and just plot hole writing that is just kind of like the weirdest choice sometimes. It's like, why was that the thing you went with? So I really noticed that in Old a lot. Like those people just didn't feel like real people.
Yeah.
Very inauthentic people. The movie can function, but like they didn't feel real. Josh Hartnett feels great in his character.
Yeah.
A lot of the other people just don't come across as authentic. Some of that's the dialogue. And like you said in the beginning, there's some cheesy
I was
moments.
a little worried in the opening like scene. I was like, oh, this is not that great. It's very like daughter, father, daughter, like cheese. And I was like, oh, this is bad.
Feels very like the characters are genuinely kind of like warming up to their roles because he's like, and he's doing some awkward stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just, it feels very clunky.
Yeah.
In the beginning.
That's a good word, clunky.
It's clunky, yeah. And there's just a lot of that with some character traits and dialogue. It's part of it works. There's moments that work. Like there's delay in responses. Like the security or the guy working the table said something to Josh Hartnett. And there was that moment where the camera turned and Josh Hartnett was like, okay. And it was a very like awkward response to him. Yeah. And I think it works okay for his character in the moment, but it just feels very awkward at first. Yeah. And it doesn't totally work. And there are definitely some suspend your disbelief plot holes in here. Lots of different little things. My biggest one that kind of I feel
want to hear it.
summarizes a lot of the other little ones is I was on board for the plot. I was all on board for like, okay, Josh Hartnett has to get out of this concert. He can't go through the police. He's got to figure out a way out. But I don't feel like they ever really explained why he can't just go past the police. Because they're just asking people questions. And then they're like letting people go. So like, what could they ask him that he couldn't? Like, he's lying to all these other people. Yeah. He's lying to cops here, lying to cops there, lying to everybody.
Yeah, his whole family. He's lying to his whole family.
Well, sure, but I'm talking about at the concert. Yeah. He's literally lying to cops.
But I'm saying he's a manipulative person. So that's a character trait he has.
Well, and he has a false identity. Yeah. Or real identity, but like a false, like a life that covers it up. Yeah. Whatever. So what would they ask him? Like, what question could he get to the door and they'd be like, sir, that he's so afraid to answer that he couldn't lie. I couldn't help but think, like, I understand he needs to get out. But they didn't tell me, like, why he can't just go past the police. I
think, I just had a thought. Okay. I think it's because he was living his two separate lives. And then if they were going to question him and bring up the butcher, then his lives would be coming together. Because that's when he started to fall apart.
He started to trip up.
Was when those two lives that he was able to keep separate were intertwined, true. Mixing together.
That's true.
So I think that's where he was like, if they're asking me, I'm with my daughter. Yeah. How am I going to keep up this persona of this father? Yeah. And then I'm going to trip up and I'm going to get caught.
That makes sense. I feel like they didn't explain that well enough.
No. But that's thinking about it, I'm like,
that is a good point. That definitely could be it. The actual thing that gets him there is like he leaves, or as we find out later, that his wife leaves the receipt for the tickets. But it's like, okay, fingerprints on the receipt. They didn't like check that, or there's no like last card number. They can't track that down. Yeah. Or like where he bought the tickets at. There's just so many things that like that's the thing that you found. Yeah. Like that's just such an odd choice. I feel like you could have come up with something better. And then there was a lot of like just elements where I can't even remember them all, but there were elements for sure that just were like, what? Like, why is that the choice you made? Like that bike thing. You know, there's a lot that you have to ignore to get to that. I mean, the fact that the profiler, as I mentioned, I'm like, she's just the profiler. She wouldn't even like be in charge of everything enough to be there at the house and be like, let him go, let his daughter go to him. And also, why would you do that? Like,
I was like, why? They would not bring the children back when he's walking out.
And he wouldn't be alone in the back. There's like 6 cop cars. Yeah. And there's all those police, but nobody's in the back of the van with him. Yeah. Ridiculous. So, unfortunately, there are pieces like that scattered throughout this film that are very interesting choices to make that don't work. And you just kind of have, I think, for the betterment of the film, and it sucks because I don't want to say just ignore them, but you can have a good time ignoring it. And I think it does still work.
Enjoy the movie.
Not picking it apart, but there are definitely some issues that you're like, okay, like how did he get out of the limo?
Yeah.
How did he get dressed so quick?
He changed his outfit quite a few times. Quick. I was like, oh, he's changed in 2 minutes.
How did he get his coat back? After all the police were... I used to lay his coat down. That bothered me. And he grabbed the apron. And then all the police came over because the lady got oil on her face. And then he went up to the roof, and then he came back and he had his coat. And so he came back to the scene of the crime where he had just thrown his coat on there, and they weren't like, why is this mysterious coat here? And they just grabbed it.
Yeah.
And I just like, he had the police thing with him, scanner with him the whole time.
A complaint I have is I don't think there was enough gore and like violence. There was like a hint of it with the razor cutter. I was like, is he gonna do, that was kind of
I agree.
Joke. Like I was like, it was almost like...
That was a cool scene though.
You didn't see any of what he
what he's
did.
Capable of.
Yeah. And then with the oil scene, the glass, I was fully expecting to see like glass just in her face.
Yeah.
Just like even a moment. But there wasn't any of that. And I don't think that's what this movie was trying to do. But I kind of wanted a little bit of that.
Yeah, and I know M. Night Shyamalan is like very famous for being like toned down horror films. Very famously finally made his R-rated film, which was The Happening. And so...
But it could have given us something.
We needed something to feel like, okay, he's capable of this.
Yeah.
Even where he's got like his phone at the end and he's like, I'm going to kill him. And she's kind of like, no, don't do it. It just didn't feel like...
Yeah, we didn't know. We didn't see. Like, it just could have been a flash, and that would have been really impactful. And even set, like, a darker tone, I think.
It needed something.
Yeah.
So that when he's talking to her, you're like, oh, yeah, I can understand why she does not want this guy to die.
Yeah.
Like, there needed to be more like, he has a family, and I'm going to, like, he's going to, like, suffocate to death. You can stay alive with carbon dioxide poisoning for 5 minutes, but you'll hallucinate. You can't breathe. So, something.
Yeah.
To paint a picture to, like, instead of being like, I'm going to kill him.
Yeah.
Like, it was just too...
A little bit of it felt like an empty threat, though he... Did it say how many people he killed? 12?
12. And it was a little ridiculous that they, like, went to his house at the end, and they was just kind of like, okay, stay for dinner, then go home. He met his whole family. She met his whole family. Like, you have to kill her at this point.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like... What? Like, it's kind of like, I feel like that's exactly like M. Night Shyamalan's writing. Like, it works okay on paper, like, or you're watching it, like, okay. But if you think about it...
Well, I thought that was a little cheesy. It was almost trying to say, like, the singer pop star was, like, brave because she was trying to save him.
Yeah.
And she did.
How they wrapped it up and how she did it, I liked okay.
Yeah.
But it was a lot to get there.
Well, and I was like, how did he not kick down the bathroom door?
Yeah, I thought that too.
She's on her phone. Yeah. She has to, like, he knows, like, at that point, he's at risk of being caught. Yeah. So he either has to kick down the door, his family's going to know something's up. So is he trying to protect, like, why? How did she have so much time to call, go on whatever live, text, and do everything? And then why did she have Riley's phone? I didn't understand that. Why did she have the daughter's phone?
She took it so that she could say, let's take a picture, which was really kind of a leap. And then the daughter was like, where's my phone? And she's like, let's use your dad's.
Yeah, yeah.
Which she could have, she could have basically just ran into the bathroom with his phone. She could have just done that anyway. Like, she didn't need to play a song and stuff. Because ultimately that was the goal.
Yeah.
He knew what she was doing. And the family was kind of like, what? So she could have, the same effect could have been just like, oh, here. And then just gone on and done it.
Yeah. That was a little,
Well, she got into his phone pretty quick for a very secure serial killer. So ultimately, there's lots of issues with Trap. Unfortunately, it's not a M. Night Shyamalan, like, home run. And it's so frustrating to see because it's like, I feel like he has so much potential. But Trap is a really unique concept.
Yeah.
It's brand new. Very fresh feeling.
Yeah.
And it is entertaining.
Yes.
So ultimately, I mean, with a movie of the year of a bunch of movies that have been kind of copies of other films and letdowns and some like new stuff, but I feel kind of like this is a nice, refreshing take.
That's what I was going to say. Fresh and new and enjoyable.
Yeah, even with its faults, I genuinely was pleasantly surprised. Thank you for watching. Let me know down in the comments what you thought of Trap, and also what is your favorite M. Night Shyamalan film. I'm pretty sure I already asked that in the trailer reaction, and I said mine is The Sixth Sense, but let me know down below if you didn't before. Take care.
I'm money scared, I'm a big bad wolf. I never see the silver lining, only see the gold. I don't speak in caps, dog, everything bold. And I put that on myself, cause it's a life that I done chose. I said come through, you can see me on the west side. Now it's funny how they walking with each